Matt Meehan here for IrishBoxingCom. Byrne, a massive event next week, another massive card in the National Stadium. This one is filled from top to bottom. ANewDawn. Firstly, how's things going?
Oh, good, yeah, not a bother, man. Thank you for having me on.
No bother. Let's get into the card. Kevin Cronin, Crowley, the Battle of Munster. Some people are calling it. We've seen obviously the segment that you had on the YouTube channel. Both lads, not backing down at all whatsoever.
No, I wouldn't expect it. When you get to this level of boxing that they're fighting for your national title, I wouldn't expect anyone to be backing down. I'd be expecting both lads being all committed and 100% focused and ready and confident that they're going to win. And that's what we want. It is a 50-50 fight and it's a great fight. So I'm really looking forward to that fight.
Um, I guess in terms of both lads, this is Carl's first domestic. It's Kevin's fifth. No, I'm probably wrong on that number, but it's he's had a number of domestics. So Carl's kind of stepping into the domestic scene, but Kevin has had that experience. Do you think that experience will play to Kevin's advantage?
Uh, yeah, it's Kevin's fifth domestic fight, so he definitely has an advantage when it comes to the level of opponents, the occasion. He's boxing Madison Square Garden. He's boxing the Tree Arena. He's being high up on the cards and things. But again, that doesn't always mean you're going to win. At the end of the day, experience stands for so much. Boxing ability stands for most. And that's why a lot of people go, he's been in these fights. Don't get me wrong, Kevin knows what it takes when he gets down to the ladder rounds, the title rounds, when it's going to become hard in there, it's going to get tough in there, and I get that completely. But that doesn't come into play if Cathal was to get him out in the first few rounds, experience only gets you so far. Ability and commitment to training and conditioned right for the fight, etc., all plays a part in the fight. So, Kevin has experience in these fights. Cathal is an unbeaten, hungry, young, up and coming fighter that wants to get to them stages. And, he knows if he wins this fight and he comes through this fight, you know, you nearly say the world is his oyster. Like he'd be the champion of Ireland at the weight, and ready to push on to bigger things. He will at that stage. Then he will top everybody in the country at his weight because there's some fantastic fighters in the country at the weight, but none of them are the national champion, and that would be the biggest achievement for any of them currently at the minute, because there's no one else in the country at the weight that has anything bigger. So yeah, it's a big fight.
The light heavyweight title is on the line. The last time it was fought for was a split draw with Jamie Morrissey and Kevin Cronin, a great fight that was in Galway. Then before that was Paddy McDonough against Steve Collins Jr. So it kind of has a storied history about that title.
Yeah, no, any Irish title is historic. Has a lot of history behind it. They've been boxed for many a time over the years, and some brilliant names have held them. Some massive names have held them. Frankie Gavin held them. Tyson Fury held them. James Tennyson held it. There's so many big names that have held the Irish title that have gone on to do great things in boxing. And look at what we're hoping to do is we got our first Irish title last year into the camp via VSN and Kelly, and JBPromotions promoted that show. And look at again, I hope that this show, we've two on this show, and I'm hoping that by this time next year there'll be more of them in play, because that's their goal. Their goal was never to come in just all about us. It was about bringing back Irish boxing and bringing these titles back into the mix, and that's what we're doing.
Just talking about the titles quickly, like will you look to advance on titles? So obviously, like it's great having the Irish titles, but maybe add a European title onto a card, or add those kind of the up ranking belts, if you get me. So with the lads when they're moving on, that they can fight for them, but they can fight for them in their home ground as well, if you get me.
Of course, I said that on the first press conference. I'm sick of having to look at all our talent, having to go across the water to take chances in the away corner. And I wanted over the period of time to build it, that we could start bringing boys in here, fighting for these titles. So yeah, in April, we have a show the first weekend in April in the National Stadium. And the plan for that one is to bring in the WBA. We've potential fights made for that card already that we're looking at, and look, it's very early doors. It's 6 months away, but we're already working on that, and we do plan on bringing in the WBA in April. But again, that's April. We've got a show next week that, if that's not a success, well, then you have to reevaluate and start again. But so far, everything looks to be going well for next week, and once everything goes according to plan next week, we hope to have 1 to possibly 2 more shows before April, if we can just iron out venues and things. And if that goes according to plan, April next year, we will bring in a bigger body to Ireland and start bringing these lads to the next level.
We've talked about this fight in person when we were at the press conference for the Wasserman. Paul Ryan against Edward Sullivan, 2 European medalists, 2 lads who have great respect for each other, and obviously it's nothing but business, and it's business and nothing personal. An unreal fight, Jay. Unreal fight.
Yeah, a fight that's going under the radar, I believe. Don't think it's getting the props it deserves. It's a massive fight. Again, Irish boxing is building. It's only building, and it's getting bigger and better. And the likes of these fights, if this was in the UK now, it'd probably be selling out a bigger arena, and it'd be being promoted massively and talked about massively in the whole lot. But we're just in Ireland at the minute where we're only really catching the media attention now lately, and it's starting to grow a bit better, and especially down the south. And yeah, this fight is a fight that's going to really show the standard in Ireland is extremely high at domestic level, and I'm hoping a lot of these lads will go on to bigger levels, as we've just discussed.
Dean Walsh, Daniel Sullivan for the BY Super Welterweight Irish title. Great move for both lads. And a cracker scrap.
Yeah, another 50-50 fight. Daniel hasn't put a foot wrong in his career, neither has Dean. Daniel is coming from, he doesn't have an amateur background. He's willing to fight. Wouldn't be a massive ticket seller, which is terrible because his style is fan friendly. It's what fans want. They want someone who comes in. They want someone who stands, has a fight, doesn't take a back step, and is willing to go to war. And that's what Daniel does. And he deserves a bigger fan base. But again, when you don't have the media attention, and we haven't had it over the last number of years since Daniel went pro, how could he gain that? So now we're starting to get that platform. And a lot of people for this fight have said to me, I can't wait to see our man Daniel O'Sullivan. Who's he against? So that shows they've just interest in Daniel. And then facing him is obviously Dean Walsh, who was an absolute standout amateur for a number of years, represented Ireland all over the world, has also not took a foot wrong in his pro career, and technically he's obviously got massive ability. You would put him out in front of Daniel when it comes to technical ability, etc. But the question for Dean is, can he stand up to that pressure of a really solid pro that does what he does extremely good? And that's why that fight, again, you can't call these fights. It's another 50-50. People say 50-50s, people say such and such is a 50-50, and this fight's 50-50, and then you see all the comments, and it's 70-30, it's 80-20, it's 90-10, and you see all this on other promotions, and we're building a card of 50-50s, and it doesn't be the case. You can always pick the winners. I don't think there's anybody in the country that knows boxing that could pick the definite 4 winners of these fights. That's how close, in my opinion, they all are.
I think it was like that though the last time as well at Night of Champions. Like I think we were on a Zoom before that. I think you kind of said similar the same thing. Like you couldn't pick the same 4 out of, like, even if you'd pick the same 4 out of a hat or put a few quid on, like, you couldn't pick the 4 because they were that close.
Yeah, I just don't see how anyone can pick the 4 winners. Like, I'm the promoter. I've made the show. I've made the fights. And I'm looking at them and I'm going, I don't know. Like, I can't see. We've talked about them 3 fights, and I'll ask you, Matt, who wins in Cronin and Crowley?
I think it's a genuine 50-50 toss-up. Genuinely, like I can't pick a winner. Like that's me being brutally honest. It is a 50-50 toss-up, and I think kind of the battle line of the Battle of Munster kind of comes up as well. It's two rivaling counties that have been neck and neck for hundreds of years, and now they two lads from the two counties come into the middle of the ring in Dublin.
The 4 fights on the card are good enough to main event any domestic
Yeah,
show
100%.
down here. Like the next fight is obviously Peter Carr and Sean Murray.
Yeah.
Like that has fireworks all over it. Even you could tell from their fight talk when they sat down. Like
It's a crossroads
thankfully
fight
there
as well
was
for the two of
a
them.
big setup. Well, that's exactly it, and I've told about them that look, it's not the end of the road for either of them either. It's the winner wants to go on and wants to get back into title mix, whether that be Celtic title or whether that be Irish title. That's what they want to do. They just want to get back into big fights. They want to be in domestic fights. They don't want to fight journeymen. They don't want to sell tickets just to pay for journeymen. They're not into it. They just want to fight, and they want to fight good level opponents. And that will end up with, your career will be a kind of 50-50, 60-40 record. But at the end of your career, you'll have made some money and you'll also have some memories. And please God, both lads will have picked up a couple of belts along the way, whether it be Irish titles, Celtic titles, etc. And that's where they're at this one. The both of them have their game plans. The both of them are speaking like they're going to kill each other. And, that's what we want. But again, it's another fight that you just don't know how that's going to go. Well, I don't know how it's going to go, to be honest.
Um, One last one for Gary O'Sullivan, a storied career of 31 wins and 6-0. I guess it's kind of a bit of an honor to have him on a JB card.
No, it's an honour. Yeah, it may not be his last fight though. The plan was originally to, try get Spike into a decent level fight. A guy with a good opponent, a good record coming in that we could maybe get some form of sanctioning body belt on the line, and let Spike go out with, that bit of glory and.
Mm.
Well, hope he go out with that bit of glory because obviously nothing is given in boxing. But that was our plan, and we just couldn't get that over the line because he'd been out of the ring for that bit of time, and to fight for a title, kind of needs to be up at 10 rounds, and he wasn't ready for the 10 rounds in regards getting sanctioned for a 10-round fight after the layoff, etc. So we just got an opponent for Spike to get onto the card, get him back. He hasn't boxed in Dublin in so many years, and please God, after this fight, then with a bit of activity, we can get him into that fight that he really wants. So yeah, it might not be the last time we see Spike.
Boy Welby, building. He's currently training at the moment. He's against Jorge Luis Huerta Balaza, who's trained
We've
13.
actually changed. We changed his
Okay.
opponent. His opponent got that opponent got cut the other night. We'd everything booked and confirmed and authorized, but he got cut on Saturday night. So we've actually changed his opponent, which will be updated later on today. It's Alexandru Oyanata. Again, it's just another. We're stepping Bayo now. He's gone to 6 rounds, and it's important he gets the 6 rounds under his belt because he's 4-0 inside 6 months, and that's good moving. 4-0, 6 months. We'd like to potentially put Bayo into his first title fight in April of next year as well in the stadium. So that's our plan for Bayo. All my fighters have a plan. They all have a roadmap. If they don't have a roadmap, it's because they haven't been in contact with me in the last few months. And that's it. But anyone that I speak to, anyone that's been in contact with me out of all my fighters know that what their roadmap is, what their plan is, and they always have a good 6-month plan.
Tony McGlynn against Josh Glen Kieran. He was obviously originally supposed to fight Dave Ryan, and Dave Ryan is now on a Queensbury card. Just a little bit about Tony's opponent, Ireland versus England, which kind of makes it a bit sweeter. Yeah.
It's an opponent that, in my opinion, Tony probably shouldn't have took. As in, he's coming off a layoff. His last fight was a defeat. We know why he lost the fight. It was nothing to do with ability. It was a bad camp. Wasn't conditioned properly. Didn't have the prep that he needed, and a lot needed to change for Tony. In regards getting himself ready for fights, etc., etc. And testament to Tony. I know Tony a long, long time. He was one of my sparring partners back in 2016, and you're training before that, done a bit of strength conditioning with him before that and stuff. So I know him a long time, and I know the way he is. And his attitude when the fight went was, he said a few things about Dave that he was that because he's not happy with him. But the biggest thing he said was, I don't want no journeyman, Jay. Get me someone decent.
Okay.
I was like, okay. And I went out and I had 3 opponents. One was 15 for 3. The other one was 8 for 4, 8 for 3. And this lad was 7-0.
Yeah. And
Tony said, yeah, I want that one. I said, yeah, okay, no problem. And we went and we made the match, and they're a lovely team to deal with, no problems at all. But it's Ireland versus England, and again, because you've got the 4 big Irish fights, that fight's kind of been forgotten about, in my opinion, as well. Because again, ask yourself, who wins that fight?
Yeah.
I
haven't really thought about that fight, to be honest, Jay. It's kind of, again, as you said, it's kind of flown under the radar.
100%, and that's the thing with the card. There's so many fights on the card that are flying under the radar. I get where we're at with, we're trying to build it, but Christina Desmond is a debutant. Christina Desmond was an absolute legend of the amateur sports, an absolute honour to have her on the show, complete honour to have her on the show. Very professional, her and her team to deal with. She's going into her debut against a girl that is 1-0 with 1 knockout.
Yeah,
on the card.
tough.
No one has mentioned that fight. No one has even saying a word about it.
Yeah.
Then you've got Kelsey Leonard, who was 1-0 with 1 knockout.
Yeah.
Going into her second fight, and she is going in against a girl that's 1-0 with 1 knockout. So
it's good matches being made though as well, Jay.
Well, but again, because the card is so good and there's so many 50-50 fights on it, the likes of them fights are if you had forget the 3 or the 4 domestics, right?
Yeah.
If you had Tony McGlynn against a 7-0 in Ireland versus England fight with Kelsey 1-0 with 1 KO against a girl 1-0 KO, and Christina making her debut against a girl 1-0 1 KO, people be going, okay, now that's some card.
Yeah.
But then you've got Spike Sullivan and 4 domestics on top of that. It's a massive card. It's an absolute massive card, and it needs eyes. It needs eyes, and we are getting the eyes. It's with the media accreditation applications for this show have trebled from our last few events. We've massive numbers applying for it. You've got the Mirror, the Star, the Sun. You've RTE.
Wow.
We're going into we're going into Talk Sport next week. We're doing sit-downs, interviews next week in Talk Sport. A couple of the fighters that are facing off against each other will be there, and some of the other JBPromotions signed fighters will be in Talk Sport in-house next week in the studio. So it's, again, what I said on day one, it's about getting the eyes, and I feel we've got the eyes. It's also our first live event on TRILLER, which is going across the world. Anyone that follows TRILLER, our Fight TV's page, we'll see that they're sharing everything that we're putting up. They're interested. We're talking to them. We're constantly back and forth to them. We're doing stuff with them. So this is definitely, and that's the reason why the card is called ANewDawn, because in my opinion, this is a new dawn.
Sarah Murphy, Sarah Murphy, Davey, Joyce, and Daniel Fakoyede, and then a return of John Carpenter as well. To briefly go through them, Sarah Murphy first off against Kerry Orton. Kerry Orton, she's a seasoned journeywoman, and it'll be a tough one.
Yeah, she's never been stopped. Extremely tough. She's been in the ring 16 times as a professional. Sarah is a baby. She's only making her debut. She's only a young kid. She's a female. It's our first female fighter, so we gotta play it safe to an extent. But again, on the other side of the coin, we won't match people with tin cans, because it gives fighters false hope. It makes them feel they're better than what they are, and then they come unstuck when they step up against someone of a bit of credibility. And again, we've gone for a good, solid, durable lady that's coming in. She's going to fight. She's going to want to win. And it's up to Sarah to do what she's done as an amateur for years. She's going to have all the nerves, the no experience of walking out under the lights. She's never boxed on any of her cards as an amateur, like the way Kelsey would have and things like that. So she has massive pressure on her that night, and she's going into a tough fight.
Podge Collins, Dale Kellum. Podge is obviously training at the moment. He's looking to go 4-0. Any brief plan for him, or is it kind of just take it fight by fight? And what's the real plan?
Yeah, there's no rush with Podge. I think a lot of people know Podge's journey. You know, he started just trying to lose a bit of weight, and he found himself as a professional fighter. There is no rush with Podge. This potentially will be his last 4-rounder, and then we'll go to 6 rounds. But we're trying to get, since we start working with Podge and Pascal and Roddy, what we've tried to do is we tried to get all different types of opponents for him. So if you remember, we had the Indian guy who came in and he wanted to go to war with him. We knew that he hadn't got massive power, although, you know, he might have looked on paper, you know, I think he was 4 for 4 or 4 for 5 at the time, and he had 4 knockouts, but he didn't have massive power. And we felt that would give Podge just that extra little bit that someone actually came to fight, because his debut was a shambles. No one was happy with the thing afterwards. So his fans, his team, they were disgusted with the opponent on his debut. So we wanted to get someone that, you know, brought a bit of fight, made Podge fight, which they did, and Podge got caught a few times in that fight and learned a lot. Yeah. So he got a good knockout. The next opponent was a guy that, you know, you could hit him with a sledgehammer and he wasn't going, and Podge had to learn an awful lot, and he had to dig deep in the fight in regards to his fitness levels and realize, okay, you know, I've had 2 knockouts, now I'm in a fight here that I've had to go the distance, and he had to push himself. So that's why he's having another 4-rounder. This Dale Kellum fella, he's the kind of fella that likes to tuck up, he likes to protect himself, he likes to go on the back foot. But Podge hasn't fought anybody like that likes to go on the back foot, i.e. run away as such. So this is his next level of learning, where, you know, this guy's going to go on the back foot. Can Podge learn how to cut the ring off? Can he let his hands go inside and get out, etc.? So, yeah, look, this is Podge's last 4-rounder. Probably have a couple of 6-rounders then before we start looking at maybe a Celtic title fight next year. But definitely Celtic title within the next 12 months would be my goal for Podge, and I know his team are very much on the same understanding.
Glen Lynch against Octavian Gratti. Gratti, a seasoned veteran and a regular at a JB show. It's him and Jordan Granham that are the journeyman double, and 2 lovely lads as well. But Octavian coming in to test Glen.
Yeah, again, you know, Glen, he's looked really, really good as a pro. He'll be having, this is his 5th fight inside 12 months. You know, it's a second 6-rounder. After this fight, you'd be likely to think that Glen be nearly ready to go for a Celtic title or something like that. But again, there's no rush. Glen can do tickets, and, you know, I'm sure his manager and that, you know, have their plans for him. But again, Glen is a good guy. You know, I know Phil is coach, and he coaches now under Declan Geraghty Senior, who was my coach. So I have a good relationship there with Deco and with Phil, and you know, they always reach out when I announce a show straight away, and his management we do a deal and we get him on the card. So no problem at all, and we love working with Glen and his team. So hopefully we can do stuff with him as well moving into next year, because probably April will be a perfect timeline for him to get a Celtic title fight as well.
Davey and Daniel. Davey Joyce first off, a debutant. I think he was supposed to turn pro, I think, kind of within the last few months, and probably bits and pieces happened. I don't know, but again, finally making a pro debut on the JB show.
Yeah, he's a Queensbury signed fighter, and you know, sometimes logistics just don't work. So, like, you know, other things happen to stop people being able to make their debuts or getting out and getting activity. But we've a relationship with Queensbury there that if we're having shows over here, you know, if they want lads on, we can do a deal with them and get lads on, and there's never an issue. So we're actually struggling to get him an opponent. He's scared off a few people because he's obviously built a name up as being an excellent amateur and that. So a few of the standard regular journeymen that we would use kind of said no to him, and it looks like we've got an opponent secured, and we're just going to finalise that this morning. So hopefully that'll be all a matchmaking finish today.
Daniel Fakoyede against Matisse Rabaski. 1-13. Rabaski is Fakoyede is looking to make a bang as a pro debutant.
Yeah, look, he's a heavyweight. Ireland doesn't have a massive amount of heavyweights, you know. Thomas Carty obviously being the main one we have. Daniel is new to the scene. He's learning to be done. And like all heavyweights, you know, you don't take risks with heavyweights. You can't, because, you know, anybody at that weight takes a bang on the chin and they could go down. So you got to be careful with the matchmaking. And again, Daniel is managed by Jason Quigley, and I spoke to Jason originally, and we were on the same understanding. You know, we don't want any banana skins in the heavyweight division. So he's matched accordingly, and he's bringing a nice crowd with him. And again, it's another honour to have him on the card. The card is built of a lot of fighters that are not JBPromotions fighters. One thing we're willing to do is work with everybody. There's others that announce shows and wouldn't even tell you they're doing the show, and you know, and wouldn't ask if you want to slot shows and things like that over the last few years. But one thing is, there's card shows like Kelsey, Leonard is not our fighter, Daniel's not our fighter, Davey, Joyce is not our fighter, Christina is not our fighter, Podge isn't our fighter, Glen, Lynch isn't our fighter, you know, Gary Sullivan, Spike is not our fighter, you know. That's 7 fights that aren't 50-50s, that aren't their fighters. And then you've got Kevin and Cathal that aren't their fighters either. And you have Dean and Daniel that are not our fighters. There's 11 fighters in the card that aren't JBPromotion fighters. Well, as I said from day one, we're willing to work with everybody and anybody to make the best for Irish boxing, not JB boxing. It's Irish boxing. So whatever works to make all the Irish boxing scene better, we'll do it. And we continue to do it, and we continue to do it on every event that we run. So very proud of myself and my team of where we've got and where we've come so far. But again, the support from the likes of yourselves, the likes of all the other media outlets that have been there from day one at the first press conference in the warehouse to now where we're going. And I just feel that we're definitely on course for our plans for next year, you know, at the end of year 3. And that's what we want to do. Just make sure we keep chipping away and keep ticking the boxes.
Just a bit of an off question. Is it, as the weights go up, Jay, is it harder to match the heavier weights? Obviously, you know, the heavyweights are, you know, at the start of the career, they're hard to match in terms of, you know, those kind of between heavyweight and light heavyweight and cruiserweight. Like, as the weights go up, is it harder to match?
It's not harder to match. It's more expensive.
Okay.
See, some people don't understand. And, you know, this is why sometimes as well, you got to make sure, one, with matchmaking, you know, some people like to match their fighters with tin cans and people are just falling on the ground. And that looks great for the first, you know, you build them up 4 or 5 fights and they knock everyone out in the whole lot. Then when you go to try and match them, people go, no, he's a knockout artist. And they want more money, because at the end of the day, journeyman gets paid what they get paid. Like, so, you know, if journeyman's getting paid 1,500 sterling, so 1,700 and 1,800 euros for 4 rounds, they can get paid every week once they're not getting stopped. But if they know they have a knockout, if they know they're getting in, there's a high risk they're going to be knocked out. Well, one, they're not going to take your fight, and two, if they do take the fight, they're going to want a lot more money, because potentially they're going to miss 3 weeks more wages because they're stopped for 28 days. Once you get stopped, you're out for 28 days. So that's why it's always important to build your fighters properly. So one, you're not scaring off the opposition with loads of knockouts. So you're putting them in with tough, durable guys that they're not stopping. They're not getting the name as knockout artists, even though they could be seriously big punchers. And the other thing is they're learning. So, you know, when you're scheduling a 4-round fight, well, they're getting 4 rounds of learning into them. It's not just 30 seconds or a minute or a round of boxing, and that's really it, you know what I mean? And the same with 6s and the whole lot, because when it comes to fighters then stepping up to 8-round Celtic titles or 10-round Irish titles, they've done the 6 rounds repetitively. They've done an 8-rounder, you know, so they're ready for these 10-round fights, rather than been building them up fake records, and then when they do step up, they just get blown away, and that's and a lot of the time they can't deal with that because they've just got the feeling for winning all the time and protecting a record, and they think they're great because they're unbeaten and they're 10-0 or 11-0 or whatever it is, and then they get in with someone that has a bit of credibility and they get stopped or they get beaten, and all of a sudden they can't handle the loss, and away they go working on fracture or something.
And that's happened before, obviously, as well.
It's happened loads. And you could name 10 previous boxers in the country that it's happened to. It's going to continue to happen unless they're matched properly. Now, match properly doesn't mean you're getting them into wars, because there's only so many wars you want to have either, but it's a proper matchmaking.
Learning fights as
we
well.
We don't just match them for the sake of it. Yeah, we don't match them like, we don't just sit down and say, right, who's tough? We'll send out the list to the matchmaker, and I'll work with the matchmaker closely. And I'll say to the matchmaker, right, I have Glen Byrne and they'd say, okay, I'd say I have Glen Byrne, he's going to fight between this weight and this weight. So you always give or take a couple of pounds, 6 rounds. But I need an opponent that's like this or that offers this, and he'll come back with one or two. And I'll look at them. First thing I do is obviously look at the records. And then the second thing I do is I get on and I look at their footage. And I'll say yes or no. But my matchmaker will tell anybody, I refuse more opponents than I accept. Because one, I'm trying to put a show on, which is entertainment, and it has to entertain the crowd. And two, I'm trying to promote and manage fighters, so I'm trying to build the fighters properly and let them learn. So it's important that that's done and it's done right. And there's a lot that don't do that right. So, and that's the difference.
I guess the main kind of thing I've taken away really from the JB shows is it's a night of entertainment. It's not only boxing; it is boxing as well, but it's entertainment, and you've brought entertainment the last time in the National Stadium, and I guess it will be the same time as well this time around.
It'll be better this time around. We're always improving. I went away from the last show and I wasn't happy. Everyone was saying how great it was. It was amazing. It just was a lot of things behind the scenes that people don't see that I wasn't happy with. That just need to be tweaked. No, it was it satisfied? There was a satisfied with it 100%. But was I happy with everything that went on in the background? No, there was loads of things. When we got there, the gate, there was an issue with the gate, getting the gate open, getting the gate manned. I hadn't got my security there early enough. The gate wasn't manned. There was like 40 or 50 car parking spaces were taken before we got there. There was problems then with the fighters getting into park, which caused delays. There was issues in regarding stewarding and people sitting in wrong areas, etc., etc. Just a lot of stuff like that. There was people, but loads of little things like that. There was the stage wasn't blocked off, wasn't manned properly, so there was people running across the stage live on TV because it was on the zone. I wasn't happy with my broadcast team the last time. The quality of the broadcasting on the zone wasn't good enough. So I could list 10 things straight off the bat that I wasn't happy with that need to be improved, and they're all well improved now for this show because I've made sure of it. So, but that's what makes it different. If you just look at the show from the outside, you go, wow, that was amazing. Everyone said how great you were, pats on the backs and all of that, but pats on the backs get you so far. It's if you're not willing to look at what went wrong. I always look at what goes wrong. And everyone says it to me. My wife says it to me. My team says it to me. Butch says to me, will you just fucking relax? Like, it was brilliant. It went great. Blah, blah, blah. Just relax. I'm not happy with this. 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 And now the question is, how do we fix it? And then we put things in place to fix it. And we've done that. And that's, as I always say, it's the fine things. It's the small things. And that's what makes us different. And that's what will continue to make us different. And that's what will continue to grow us. And I worked with Wasserman on the McGlynn show. I was heavily involved in that show from the start to the finish, worked on the inside with their team. And I've learned stuff from them. And I've took a lot of positives from them as well. And I've took small things from them that I've implemented into our next show and to make things just sharper. I feel like now I'm working a lot smarter, than harder. And, and again, that's what I say. That's why we're not here to make a quick buck and run out the back door. We're here to promote and bring Irish boxing back to where it should be. And people have been saying, it's coming back to the way it was. I don't want it the way it was. I don't want it to be what it was 10 years ago, 15, 20 years ago. I want it to be better. There's no point just setting them for what it was. You always got to strive to be better, and that's my goal. That's my plan, and that's what I will do.
Davey, on that note, really appreciate it. A New Dawn next week, the National Stadium, October 10th. Fight week schedule will be out soon.
Fight week schedule is out. It's being sent out to all the media. It's been sent out to the fighters and the team, but it will be released on Saturday/Sunday.
Okay.
To the public.
Legend. On that note, Jay, really appreciate it again. Thank you so much.
Bosh.